Hi, good afternoon. Welcome back, people. How you doing? Owen, how you doing, Sebastian?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Great stuff, man. How's everything going? How's everything in the UK?
It's cold, but it's good here. I don't know if you remember my dad Jeremy often joins you at this congress. Since this time it doesn't involve a week in the Caribbean, he's decided it's my turn to come.
Well, I mean that's dad's for you, isn't it? That's dad's. They always get the good stuff, and then they give you the evolving parts afterwards. But no, don't be in doubt. COVID will not last forever, and you know, if when we next year or the next 2 years when we have our next conference, if he says, well, I'm going this time, he said, no, my job is to deal with the Caribbean, so you stay back in the UK and I'll be in the Caribbean at the Congress.
That's right, I'll be trying that one.
Yeah, try that one. It sometimes works. It doesn't work with my dad, but you know, it sometimes works. It might work with yours. It might be a little more amenable. All right, so we've had a great session this morning. We now slide across to one of our title sponsors, Vita B Health, and Sebastian is going to talk to us a little bit about the product line from Vita B, and how we should try to look to incorporate their products into our Caribbean beekeeping enterprises. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you straight across to Sebastian. Take it away, mate.
Great, thank you very much. Is this all working okay?
Yep, we can see you loud and clear. It's perfect.
Excellent. So, first of all, a big thank you to everyone for joining us this afternoon. I know that nobody switches on their television to watch the advertisements, and commercial sponsor presentations can be a bit like that. I'll try to make this interesting, maybe even a bit educational, to show my appreciation for your time. So my name's Seb Owen. I'm Commercial Director at B2B Health. We were formed back in 1997, and we're still the biggest dedicated honeybee health company globally. We're active in about 55 or 60 countries around the world, and always working to keep your bees as healthy and productive as possible. What I'd like to talk about this afternoon is honeybee nutrition, and how so many beekeepers are doing it wrong, and how it can be done better to improve colony health and productivity. Some of what I'm going to talk about came from our apiary here in the UK, so I thought it might be interesting to share a couple of photos. We're based in a town called Basingstoke, which is about 50 miles southwest of London. It's a relatively small town. The apiary itself is on an allotment site, so this is where people without gardens can rent plots of land to grow fruit and vegetables. And the apiary is less than a mile as the bee flies from our office. With the allotment crops, the gardens of the town and the surrounding farm fields, we've got a lot of canola and that sort of thing. There's plenty of good forage for the bees. We've got a small apiary, just 10 or 12 colonies, mainly running on single brood box 10-frame Langstroths. We've also got a few of the British National hive types. So when we set up this apiary, one of the main purposes was to allow us to speed up a bit our research and development program. We've always worked with researchers in Italy, Greece and Cyprus, mainly because of their great climate, and we've got good links with their researchers and institutions. They've got great coffee and wine as well. And we will continue to do this, but the apiary here in Basingstoke is very useful for looking at projects. When we're asked to evaluate things, we can get early experience and results with our own bees, and then decide whether or how best we're going to move forward. And this is particularly the case with nutritional supplements, because it's become really clear, ever increasingly clear over the past years, and with every new paper published, that good nutrition is far more important than perhaps has been previously appreciated. We all know that the cause of colony collapse disorder, and I'm sorry, I'm sure you're as bored of these three letters as I am, but the cause hasn't been found, but it's almost certainly multifactorial. Problems like agricultural pesticides, intensive agriculture, varroa, all combining to stress the bees and cause the colony to collapse. If we look at some studies from Italy and Brazil, among others, they're all pointing the finger firmly towards nutrition as a leading factor in colony collapse disorder for two reasons. One is that researchers have found that bee bread is contaminated with a cocktail of chemicals, and the slide I hope you can see is a pollen analysis, which shows a huge number of chemicals. A lot of these you may notice are harmful to bees, and this is coming back in the supposedly clean pollen that bees are collecting, and it results in a decrease in bee lifespan. So why is nutrition so important? Well, as you know, each honeybee colony in general has just one queen, and she can lay a maximum of around 2,000 eggs a day. Each cell that an egg is laid in is then occupied for around 3 weeks before a new egg can be laid in it. So there's a limit to the amount of brood that a colony can produce, and that's diagrammed on the left of the slide, and therefore to the number of nurse bees that are required to look after that brood. As all beekeepers know, for a good honey harvest, we need a strong flow of nectar. And it's also well known, I'm sure, that large colonies are the most productive, because as a colony becomes larger, again, as you can see on the left, the ratio of adult bees compared with brood is much higher. So you've got more foragers available to go out and collect nectar, and then that can be converted into honey. So as you can see graphically represented on the right, a large number of bees in one colony will produce more honey, significantly more honey, than the same number of bees split between smaller colonies. Larger colonies are more productive. So to grow into a strong and productive colony, all the nutritional needs of the bee must be met. And just like us, bees require carbohydrates, proteins, water, minerals, vitamins, lipids, which are fats, and trace elements like magnesium. They get their carbohydrates from nectar, or most of it, about 60% from nectar, and the other 40% from pollen. And these carbohydrates are used to produce two types of fat, wax and body fat, or vitellogenin. Bees can't store sugar directly, so this vitellogenin is deposited in adipose tissue, especially in autumn. And to produce it, bees need protein to produce the enzymes that catalyze, that allow these chemical reactions. Looking now at a life cycle of a bee, first of all, larvae need carbohydrate, but more importantly, they require a huge amount of protein in the form of royal jelly to support their development from egg to adult bee. After emerging for the first 2 weeks of a bee's life, while they're doing their in-hive jobs, like keeping the comb clean, feeding the larvae and building new comb, newly emerged bees are working hard to build up their fat bodies as much as possible with protein, fatty acids, and carbohydrates. So these early bees are using a lot of protein to produce royal jelly and wax. After a couple of weeks, after 14 days, the peritrophic membrane surrounding the gut starts to degrade, and the bees are no longer able to produce protein. And from now on, they must rely on their fat bodies as their only protein source. So this means that the quality and quantity of the fat body that the bee is able to produce in the first 2 weeks of her life dictates the length of her life. What you can see in this slide here is a young bee with a lovely peritrophic membrane. It's the bottom 3 photos. The middle photo then is a bee gut full of pollen. And you can see in this photo there's a lot of water. The space in the middle of the circle, if you like, is water. And that's because a huge amount of water is required to process protein from pollen. And then on the far right, you can see the gut of a bee fed with free amino acids. I'm going to explain more about free amino acids later. But what I'd like you to note from this image is that it's far more densely packed. There's a huge amount in that gut. And that's because hydrolysis is not required for free amino acids. And again, I'll come back to explain what hydrolysis means. So bees need 2 types of energy. They need energy for flight, which they get from sugar, and they need it for metabolism, which they get from their body stores. So if there is only sugar in the bee's diet, they can fly, but they can't produce wax or royal jelly or all these sort of things. I think this is a really important point that perhaps isn't fully understood. One of the major types of metabolism, which is just the chemical name for converting one thing into another inside the body, is changing nectar, which is sucrose, and the bees can't use it directly, converting that into glucose and fructose, which they can store and use as an energy source. To do this, bees have glands that convert protein into the necessary enzymes to affect that conversion, so the protein is required. Now you might be thinking, well, we could just feed them glucose and fructose, couldn't we, and save them the step. Unfortunately, that's not the case. The bees still need to process those sugars if they come in the diet, so there's no advantage. They still need the protein to do the processing. So to make energy, bees need protein as well as carbohydrates, not enough to just give them sugar. And I think of this a little bit like fueling your car. Cars essentially run on crude oil, but if you tried pumping that into the fuel tank, you wouldn't get very far at all. It needs to be processed first into petrol or gasoline. So the overall goal of any nutritional program is to provide protein to allow the bees to produce the necessary enzymes to break down glucose and generate energy. That's the key to all bee nutrition. Protein, which they naturally get from pollen, is required for the growth of muscle and tissue, for making enzymes and hormones, producing new cells, and to support the immune system of honeybees. And to make proteins that they need, bees hydrolyze or break down other proteins into their component amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. They can be hydrolyzed or broken down into amino acids, and then reformed into the proteins and enzymes and everything else that the bees need at that time. If a particular amino acid is missing from their diet, bees can synthesize it from other amino acids that are present in excess. But there are certain amino acids that bees can't synthesize. These are called essential amino acids because they must be consumed by the bees in their diet. They can't be made in any other way. And you can see some of the essential amino acids here. It's also vital that these amino acids are available to the bees in the right ratio. So for example, you can see that isoleucine needs to form 4% of the total protein content of the bee's diet. Bees can adjust this and improve it. So if a particular pollen doesn't have 4% isoleucine, they can make up bee bread with a combination of pollens that does have that correct ratio. But if there isn't enough or high quality enough pollen for them to be able to do that, then they can only process a relative amount of the overall protein. So for example, if there's only 2% isoleucine in the bee bread, that's the best they can do, so only half of what they need, then they can only process and use half of that protein. And it's perhaps easier to think of this in terms of dogs. So if you have a dog with a very bad diet, then it's the same. They can't process it fully. They need to eat a lot, and they can't process that, so you end up having to clear up a huge amount after them. You need to bring along a shovel. If you feed them with a high-quality diet, then they're able to process a much larger percentage of that diet, and there's much less clearing up after them to deal with. In bees, the equivalent of this would be pollen block. Pollen block, where you have a small amount of brood surrounded by loads of pollen. A quick glance, you might think, oh, there's plenty of pollen, no problem at all. But what you're actually seeing is a low quality protein, and the bees are in trouble. So bees consume about 25 to 55 kilos of pollen a year. And we can grade this by the percentage of crude protein it contains. Below about 20% protein content in pollen is considered low quality. If there's more than about 30% protein in the pollen, then that's considered excellent quality. And to give you an example of how that works out, for every 10 grams of protein required by the bees, they need 48 grams of excellent quality pollen at 30%. But if the available pollen is low quality, if it's only got 20% protein, then they need 72 instead of 48 grams of pollen to obtain that same 10 grams of protein. And looking at a colony level, that means that the pollen requirement can increase from, say, 40 kilograms when there's good quality pollen available to around 65, 70 kilograms when there's low quality pollen available. And you see this in your bees as smaller brood area, fewer bees, and reduced honey production. So these two factors that I've just described, the availability of essential amino acids and the percentage of crude protein, explain why there's a general rule of thumb that bees need 6 to 8 different sources of pollen in their diet at the same time to maintain a healthy colony. And you can check for this very easily by looking for pollen of different colors in the frames. If you've got 6 to 8 different colors, so the bees are bringing in pollen, you can watch them coming into the colony, 6 to 8 different colors of pollen, then you're doing well. You don't need to worry too much about the nutrition of that particular colony. If you're not seeing that, if there's not enough pollen or pollen of a sufficient quality, then what happens is the nurse bees can't produce enough royal jelly. So they evaluate larval development, and they will eventually start to eat eggs and larvae. And they do this for 2 reasons. The first of all is that by eating the eggs and the larvae, you're preventing growth of the population level, so keeping it at a sustainable level according to the amount of protein available in the environment. But also those nurse bees themselves, it helps them stay alive because eggs and larvae are full of protein. So I've been talking a lot about protein this evening, and I think this is really important. I apologize to anyone who's hungry. I hope you've just had lunch, because I think that this is like beekeepers falling into the trap of feeding their bees with sugar. It is a bit like us having a Big Mac and Coke 3 times a day, every day. It might make us feel full, and in the short term, it might make us feel happy. But ultimately, it's not going to do us any good at all. And our health is not going to do well on that kind of diet. We really need to think about a varied and nutritious diet for our bees and not just feeding them sugar. Because with monoculture, with loss of natural borders, I don't know if that's a problem in the Caribbean, it's certainly a big problem here, pesticide use and with general loss of forage, a lot of colonies these days can't thrive with the pollen that's naturally available to them. I should also note that I'm talking here in general about Apis mellifera, and I'm not too familiar with the nutrition requirements, etc., of Africanized bees, or too much with the climatic conditions in the Caribbean. So some of this may need to be adjusted slightly to be a little bit more relevant to you. But it is a general rule around the beekeeping world that the pollen available to bees is more and more becoming insufficient for their diet, and we as beekeepers need to help. How can you help? Well, I'm afraid this is where we now get to the propaganda part of the presentation, a little bit of advertising here. We've been working on an annual nutritional protocol using 3 new products. So we've got a liquid feed, Beekeeping Power, which is a really powerful growth promoter. It can be used in spring, and it gives a really good boost to the colony. It's packed with those free amino acids I was talking about that don't need to be hydrolyzed or processed by the bees before they can be recombined into the proteins and enzymes that they need to thrive. So the benefits are realized very, very quickly. You see very quick results. We've done a lot of tests, and overall, what we see is that if you feed with Beekeeping Power in sugar syrup, you get about 2 frames more brood than you would have done with just feeding sugar syrup. Another point is that there's been some relatively recent research into the effect of vitamin C on increasing tolerance among bees for varroa and reducing infestation levels. I think Beekeeping Power is the only feed out there that contains vitamin C. Now, I'm not by any means saying that it is a treatment for varroa control. Absolutely not. It may not even have a particularly noticeable effect, but there's some evidence there that it might give the bees a bit of extra help in fighting varroa. Now, again, I don't know if this is applicable to your part of the world, but certainly in a lot of regions, it's very common that during a honey flow, there's lots of nectar available, but not enough pollen. And this leads to a sort of boom and bust, where the colony builds up really quickly because there's loads of carbohydrates available. But then the nurse bees realize that there is a lack of protein or high enough quality protein, and they very quickly regulate the size of the colony, and you get that crash. To help in this situation, we've got a powder feed Nutri, which is a pollen supplement, protein supplement that leads to a significant increase in honey production. We're not sure exactly why that is, but we think it's probably because it's helping the bees to live longer and forage more. And then we've got a patty, which here in Europe and in the US we'd use typically in the autumn, preparing bees for the winter. I think in your region it would perhaps be best used in conjunction with Beekeeping Power towards the end of the rainy season. So this is again, trials that we've done, extensive trials. We've seen that in general, using this patty as against just sugar fondant gives about 2 extra frames worth of brood. I also note that the Beekeeping patty doesn't have any soya flour in it because there are 2 sugars in that that's toxic to bees. So unlike a lot of the patties, we've used a vegetable flour. So I mentioned Beekeeping patty and Beekeeping Power both result in 2 extra frames of brood, roughly, compared with just sugar. And that there is demonstrating the benefit of using protein. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, let's use the 2 together, and we would recommend that, and we'll get 4 frames more brood. So we tested that, obviously, and you don't. You get 2 more frames of brood. So why is that? It took us a while, but we realized that you've just got 1 queen, and she can only lay those 2,000 eggs a day. So what we're doing with each of these feeds is allowing the colony to develop as quickly and efficiently as it possibly can. It's maximizing its potential, and it can't physically go any faster than that. So what we looked at is using this annual nutritional protocol across the year. Forgive me for using the British prices there, but we looked at the effect, and the average was 2.5 or so kilograms more honey each year, for an average of about a third more honey over the year. More importantly, you had healthier colonies who were better able to resist disease and better prepared for the winter or for the season when there is less available forage. And in the UK, and I don't know if this is relevant to other markets, we haven't done a survey of prices elsewhere, but in the UK we found that if you spend £1 on our nutritional protocol, then you'd get an average of about £4.50 back in terms of more honey that you can sell. So it's a worthwhile investment. So that's just a quick overview of nutrition, the benefits of nutrition. I think the key takeaway there, even if you never use any of our products, please consider using some form of pollen supplement, protein supplement for your bees to allow them to develop to their best potential, to keep them healthy, to keep them productive. Just a very brief, I'm very happy to take any of your questions about nutrition, but also about the other things that we do. So as a company, we have a varroa control range. That's our main business, Apiguard, Apistan, and the physical device called the Beegem. We've got the nutrition products that I've talked about. We have field diagnostic kits for foul brood, one for European foul brood, one for American. Give you a result in 5 to 10 minutes at the hive site. We've also got our swarm attractant lures, so that's giving the opportunity for freebies. We've got Beetle Blaster for small hive beetle trapping. we've got a product, a couple of products for designed for Asian hornets, but also useful for yellow jacket trapping. So again, I'd like to really thank you sincerely for joining me, for allowing me to speak with you this afternoon, and I'll happily take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation, Sebastian. Very informative. You gave me a headache in a good way, but not a bad way. Right? You gave me a little bit of a headache. In regards to, I mean, where do I start? Where do I start? I mean, from my personal perspective, I feed heavily during the rainy season. We breed colonies, myself, my colleague, and my other colleagues, we breed queens. And we also make nooks of bees. So it's very important for us to feed during the off season, especially our smaller, younger colonies. So from the standpoint, with the information you're giving me now is that you really have to make sure that your protein levels inside the hive are really, really on top of its game. And feeding with syrup, that alone is not really enough at all, which is very good information. I do see there are some questions online. Risha Alain, do you want to come live and speak? Can we connect Risha Alain? She's there in the Q&A box. Let's let them answer online if they wish to. Yes, they're online, they're there. Risha Alain, you can go ahead and give your contribution directly. We're not hearing you. I don't see her connected though. Risha Alain. She's not next to the mic. Okay. Well, I'll read out Risha's question. Risha's question is, what are the indications that your bees are getting enough nutrition? Which is better, a diet, one floral variety, or one multiple species of flowers? Peter Mitchell, can you mute your microphone, please, unless you're asking a question? Sorry?
Yes, I'm about to ask, yeah.
All right, go ahead, ask the question, Peter.
Yes, I was just very interested in the pollen analysis, where he said he got different, residues of pesticides in the pollen, because certain, since I have a farm, at one time, once in a while, I use pesticides, but I moved away from it and I was encouraged to use what you call organic pesticides. But one of the organic pesticides is approved, it doesn't kill the bee immediately, but when I research the active ingredient, it stays in the gut of the bee for about 2 days, and eventually the bee dies out after about 2 or 3 days. So whereas it was advertised as an organic pesticide, it's still entered into the bee through maybe the pollen or the flower. So it's very interesting that you mentioned that, because yes, as a farmer, sometimes you need to use pesticides which are advertised as organic, but yet these pesticides also affect our bees.
All right, yeah, okay. Geez, time flies when you're having fun. All right, okay, we have to run quickly because we just slipped behind schedule. I just realized that. Another question from Risha Allen. Are electronic documents available with studies on how your products affect the bees and their productivity? I would assume they can get that off the website.
You can get that off our website. And just to go back to the previous question, great question about how to get an indication of whether the bees have enough nutrition and which is better, one floral variety or multiple species of flower. The indication is the different colors of pollen coming into the hive. You want to see good variety there. And yes, absolutely, multiple floral varieties are very much preferable to just a single protein or pollen, sorry, because that may not have the right protein blend. The bees need to use multi-varietals to be able to produce a good balance of bee bread.
All right, we have a problem here. Okay, Angela Franklin, while I appreciate the need to feed when necessary, how does the Appy Protect product against wasp and swarms impact the honeybee, ensuring it's organic?
So both of them are physical products. You're not putting any chemical into the hive at all. The wasp protection is a trap, but we've got a couple of different types of trap, and the swarm attractant is an impregnated wipe. It's a bit like a wet wipe, but it's not really, the bees aren't going to come into particular contact with it. So there's no issue there in affecting the honey.
All right, one quick question again, which I guess I remember in my correspondence that I've been sent in our communications prior to today. I did make note of the fact that I'm a user of the AppyGuard product, and I had problems buying the 3 kg tub out of the UK. And then we eventually got it out of the US. But Risha, Keenan Ashby asked, do you have distributors in the Caribbean? And unfortunately, there isn't. So we need to work on that.
Yeah, we work with, we do work with a couple of people in the Caribbean. We work with St. Jago Honey Farm in Jamaica, and we work with Gladstone Solomon.
Right.
So we do have a couple of distributors, but I think the details can be found on our website. If not, my details are on the website, and get in touch with me and I can put you in touch with the right people. It's not been a particularly easy place for us to develop a foothold because there's not always been a huge demand for our products. But we do want to make them available as much as possible. So we'll always try to help you.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, one of the traditional things, and I'm really pushing the envelope here because we've got another session due to start at 2 o'clock. One of the problems that we've had in the Caribbean is that we've been very much geared towards, don't feed, don't do this, don't do that, let the bees do their own thing, but yet you want to get as much productivity out of the bees as possible. And people are now beginning to turn around to the fact that they need to feed their bees because of climate change and different issues of that nature. So I think, after this Congress, and, you'll get some communications, we may have to AGBO may have to reach out to you directly and to see how we can strengthen the relationship between in the region to get your products out to the various beekeepers.
That would be wonderful, and hopefully I'll be able to, in due course, come and visit and talk to you guys in person about it.
Yeah, there's a good comment here from Hugh Miller. He says, bee nutrition makes the beekeeping expensive, and locally most supplements not available. So, it's already a very tight costly activity, and then some persons may not have the resources to buy the nutritional supplements as well because they're not at the large enough scale to really make that difference. So that's one of the issues.
I absolutely agree, and our products unfortunately are expensive. They're fantastic products, really high quality, but they are expensive. We know that they provide value for money, and you will get back more than you put in terms of cash. But that does rely on being able to buy them in the first place to justify that cost, and I understand that that's not always possible.
All right. Okay, so unfortunately, we're going to have to... this is a really dynamic session, and I wish we had given more time to it. I think maybe if, Sebastian, if you're in agreement, maybe we can look to bring you back before the end of the week, maybe tomorrow, to do another session for us if I can try, if there's a need for it, because I know there's some questions, or what I can do is probably circulate your email address in a number of the various beekeeping groups that I'm a part of, and other persons can circulate it, and you could get some direct correspondence in with them to establish where we go from now with regards to beekeeping health and how we should look after our bees. Probably what we could do is we'll post Sebastian's presentation online, and you could download it from the website at your leisure. And we recently launched this month our Agbo newsletter, and I'll definitely be calling on Sebastian to give us a few articles now and again to be included in our newsletter, and this way it'll be able to keep up to date with what's happening with Vita Bee Health, and you know, keep up to date with any latest developments in the industry. All right. So I want to really thank you for your input, Sebastian. We have to switch across because we need to continue our country papers from yesterday. I'm just pulling up the link to share to everybody in this group so that everyone has the link and knows what's happening. All right, this is the link. I'm just copy pasting it now. Let me post it into this forum. All right, so for everybody, all panelists, all attendees. Okay, so this is the link for the, I just posted in this group the link for the Zoom link to continue to do our country paper presentations. I know there is panelists who have to present that are probably trying to get into the group. So we need to end this session so we can start the next session. So Sebastian, greatly appreciate your presentation. You will be hearing from me directly for sure in the very near future. Please continue to participate in the Congress, everybody. But we're going to leave this session now, and we're going to open our next session straight away so we can finish our country papers today.
Thanks very much for having me. Anything I can do to help?
It was a pleasure, pleasure. The information you shared was invaluable.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ready? I'm just about to join. All right. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for the delay. We were wrapping up our Vita Bee Health session.
Ready?
And it ran a little longer than expected. So we are definitely all on board. Good. Mr. Delis, wow, man, it's great to see you there. Nice to see you. Enjoying life as always, man.
I'm not enjoying life. If I was on that farm in the photo you see behind me, I would really be enjoying life there.
All right, that's cool, that's cool.
COVID had put a stop to that, you know, for a while.
That's good. We also have, all right, so I don't want to cut us too far behind. I know Miss Lightbourne has another seminar to attend to shortly, so I am going to cut straight across to Miss Lightbourne, and if she can, I know she's ready to go. She's got a smile on her face, and she's ready to rock and roll. So without further ado, I would like all our panelists who are online to mute their microphones so that Miss Lightbourne can have the floor and can proceed as requested. So, Miss Lightbourne, all yours.
Thank you very much, Richard. Thank you very much. And I really want to commend you and your team for the great job you've been doing this week. It's been very informative. I missed a couple of questions, but we have to come back.
Yeah, David Small, please mute your microphone, please. Please mute your microphone, David. Oh, you just unmuted it.
I'm gonna share my screen here. So can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so thank you very much for allowing me to give the country report on behalf of the Bahamas. I'm just going to get right into it. Let me move this along. So to just give you a background of the history of beekeeping in the Bahamas, this is actually our second, I think our first, we attended the first ACO Congress in 2016. That was the last one, I think, in Tobago. That's the first time we actually attended the Congress, so this would be our second time at Bee Congress. So to give you a little history of beekeeping in the Bahamas, it really was started in the 1800s, maybe before that with the Benedictine monks. Then we had a Mennonite mission in North Andros. Andros is right here, it's actually the largest island in the Bahamas. As you can see, the Bahamas is an archipelago. We stretch from Florida, right off the coast of Florida, to Cuba. Our last island is closest to Cuba. You actually can see the lights from Cuba from that island. And so we are definitely a chain of 700 plus islands, rocks, and keys. So Andros here, we had a Mennonite mission group that came in, and to this day, they're still practicing beekeeping and selling honey. So very famous honey from that area. We also had a history of having bees imported into the country for the citrus groves. We had citrus groves in Grand Bahama and Abaco, our twin islands here that were affected by Dorian. We had citrus groves, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 acres of citrus that Florida Natural Orange Juice and orange groves would have on these islands because sometimes they would have frost in Florida and they wanted to have a backup. So they would bring bees to these islands to help to pollinate the citrus groves there. As far as IECA and IECA getting involved in beekeeping in the Bahamas, we started that in about 2015. We had a group called Gulfstream Limited that came to us and asked us to, provide some training in beekeeping. Before we have a lot of older beekeepers here, and they've been doing it for 30, 40 years, but that's more individuals. But in terms of people coming together as a group and trying to learn more about beekeeping, that started with IECA, farmer cooperatives, and Gulfstream Limited. And for our very first current apiculture workshop, where Dr. Manuel Sanchez introduced the Peroni hives, we had about 60 people to that workshop. I really didn't expect that, to have all those people at the workshop. We almost had standing room only, definitely not COVID protocols in that case, but a good thing we were able to touch each other in those times. So since then, we've trained over 400 persons in beekeeping on 7 different islands. We're still pretty much a fledgling industry here in the Bahamas. And based on, in terms of the vegetation, we have 2 types of islands here. We have pine islands, where we have pine forests, and then we have coppice islands, which is pretty much bush. And then we have a population of 385,000 people. So just to give you a quick snapshot of the islands where we have heard that there are bees, because we do have some islands that actually don't have honeybees on them. And so based on speaking with different individuals, just put a little, the names of the different islands that have the bees, and as well as the area of those particular islands. So the whole country is 180,000 square miles, and that's ocean included. And then this is the area for those islands mentioned. So the type of bees that we have in the Bahamas are Apis mellifera. We say we have Italians, but we're still in the process of doing a lot of baseline studies because we are islands. We've seen differences in behaviors in the bee populations. That's why I kind of have a question mark there. So we still have to do a little bit more, I guess, DNA, get some more DNA testing on the different colonies on the different islands to say for sure what different species that we have here in the Bahamas, as well as the native bees. So the number of colonies in the Bahamas are approximately 800 plus hives, about 65 beekeepers. Again, this is an estimation based on the baseline studies we did earlier in the year, because sometimes it's difficult to get people to come forward that they're actually beekeeping or get information from people when we're so disjointed. A lot of it is word of mouth at this point. The government does not, the Ministry of Agriculture does not have apiary department or extension officers in that area at all. So it's pretty much very much a private sector thing right now. So the number of beekeepers, they just range from about 20 years old to 70 years old, and 20% of them are women. The production levels varies based on having conversation with different beekeepers, average about 4 gallons per hive per year. So hopefully moving forward, we can get our beekeepers to keep better records or teach them how to keep records. And actually in all areas of agriculture, that's a challenge for us. So moving forward, we'll continue to build capacity in that area. So some successes and challenges to the growth of development. Through the IECA Bioeconomy Project for the Bahamas and Barbados, we were able to get some baseline data of beekeeping in the Bahamas. IECA hired consultants from the Latin American Caribbean Network of Beekeeping and Agriculture and the Dominican Environmental Consortium to come and do the baseline studies for us and Barbados. I'm so glad to see Santiago here on the call. And we were able, the time was very short, but we were able to visit at least the capital where most of the beekeepers are, and in New Providence and then Exuma. And so this is just some pictures of our visiting different beekeepers, Santiago and Cesar in Exuma here, with Exuma beekeepers, display hive, and then the national co-op here that we're still trying to form here at our office at IECA. Some of the problems that were identified in the baseline studies were the lack or weakness of community organizations and groups. We definitely know that that's a weakness of ours. We're still working on getting our national co-op up and running, even though we have smaller groups on different islands for beekeepers that aren't formally registered or formally recognized. So the absence of, the other thing is the absence of technological packages adapted to the local conditions, poor link with the markets. Needless to say, there's a lot of demand for local honey here. There's a lot of demand for local honey, period, considering that we have 2 very large resorts here, in fact, the largest in the region, as well as other hotels and grocery stores. And it's just that we can't get enough honey at all, locally or otherwise. So there's definitely a poor link to the markets, but at this point, I don't think we even have enough local honey to supply the market that we have. There's a lack of strategic plan for the beekeeping sector. As I said, moving forward, we'll be working along with the government to help to build the capacity in those areas in terms of the regulations, as well as the beekeeping organizations that we're trying to help to build the capacity for. The recommendations from the report, key recommendations were to implement innovation processes with the leading role of the actors involved, innovation in production technology, transformation and adaptation technology, evaluation and preservation of better adapted local germplasm and ecotypes, the production of living material, nutritional management, monitoring and sanitary management, prioritizing earlysis, romide, and colony management for the honey production, etc. innovation in processing technology and adaptation of the harvest, extraction, and processing of honey to the conditions of the country, quality management and added value to bee products, honey, wax, royal jelly, pollen, propolis, and UP toxins. And of course, organizational innovation through the preparation of territorial plans, organizational strengthening, environmental preservation, and linkages with markets. So obviously we have a lot of work to do. Just to give a highlight of some of the successes that we've had, ECA was asked to develop a program in Grand Bahama, along with the Office of the Prime Minister and the Bahamas Development Bank and Department of Cooperatives, to try to get entrepreneurs in the area of beekeeping. And we designed a program for young people between the ages of 17 and 35. This particular island, Grand Bahama, which was one of the ones that was hit by Dorian, they had an unemployment rate for youth at 33%. So in this program, we started out with a 2-day introductory workshop. We had about 60 participants. We actually had more, but we had to turn people away. And we like to do a lot of introductions to things when we want to move into actual programs, just to see if people like it or they're interested in it. I know some of the beekeepers that the young people that we ended up choosing, they thought it was they actually thought it was a bookkeeping workshop, and they stayed because we had food. So always important to have food at your workshops. And those two ladies, they actually turned out to be one of our best students. So after the introductory workshop, we chose about 30 people from that workshop to be a part of the program. It was a 14-week program originally, but the government actually decided they wanted to extend it a little bit more, 60 and 18 weeks. We ended up having 27 people that showed up on the first day. And the Minister for Grand Bahama actually thought it was important to provide a stipend for the participants. So they were actually given a stipend each week for coming to class and learning about that program. So just to give you an idea of some of the things they learned about in the program, we wanted to take a holistic approach to entrepreneurship, not only the beekeeping and the technical stuff, but just to build a good business person on the whole. Was the whole objective of the program. So we had topics like introductory to beekeeping, agro-ecotourism opportunities, learning about bee equipment and site management and extractions, working with colonies and catching and hiving swarms. They learned about bee pests and diseases, permaculture, cooperative and financial record keeping, marketing products and the hives, products of the hives, workshops. They had public speaking. They went to Toastmasters meetings, and then they had sessions on customer service. So this is just some of the pictures of, I had about 12 of them to a Toastmasters meeting. After the program, they started to have a lot of value-added products. Some of the ladies, they did honey soaps, lotions, they did shoe polish, and which they were going to market to the police and defense force for their boots. They shine their shoes with polish, and beeswax is a good way to shine shoes. The two students actually went to Caribbean Week of Agriculture. Here they are with our IECA DG. And they also went to, they did a lot of career fairs. And that a couple that they had in Grand Bahama, where high school students were able to see that beekeeping can actually be a career and something to move into. This is just a list of the instructors that we have, just to give you an idea of the cross-section of training that they have. So over 14 weeks, they had different trainers. Some weeks, we started off with Nicholas Weaver from the University of Georgia. We had Bo Sturck from the University of Florida, Caribbean Bee College, Dr. Kevin Bethel. He's actually a beekeeper, but he's a medical doctor on Grand Bahama. We had the marketing specialist, Nathan Burrows. Charlie Burrows, he's a local beekeeper. There's Ruben Ramming. We had Kim Robinson from from St. Augustine, Florida. She's a beekeeper as well, and she did the products of the hive workshop. So she would have taught them how to do all the soaps and the lotions and all the different products they could have gotten from the hive. We had Dr. Manuel Sanchez. He was the eco rep in Guatemala at the time, and was our specialist. Business professionals in Guatemala, Deborah Pratt, Toastmasters, Tamika's Foster, and then myself as instructors. So some of the achievements from that program, like I mentioned before, they had career fairs. They visited numerous expos just to get exposure and to show people what they can do as young people. They've done presentations at the Rotary Clubs there in Grand Bahama. They were featured from a Danish reporter who visited through the Ministry of Tourism in some European magazines. Some of their presenters were so impressed with what they were doing. They actually got a grant from the Rotary Club in St. Augustine, $1,000 to go towards their equipment and whatnot. They got a grant from Cable Cares Foundation to do a documentary of the whole program. We had the US shot fairs, visit them, etc.
Yeah, Ms. Lightborn, that's a quick brief for time. If you could try to wrap up quickly, because
okay, I will.
Time.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, so this is just in terms of their logo, this Grand Bahama Beekeepers Co-ops. Some of the products, as you can see, this is an area of souvenirs where they place bees and tree resin and created these keychains, and they also created a lot of jewelry in that area. This is honey soap, different honeys, and then this, actually from Ixoma, one of the other islands, is comb honey and that thing. So there's a lot of different value-added products that came from that. We have luminaries here, made out of wax, candles, lip balm, even painted boxes. A lot of people like to see these nice bee painted boxes in their yards. So that actually was a product as well. In terms of revenue generated from beekeeping, there's a lot of hive removals done in both Grand Bahama and Providence. We have bees everywhere in the city, and Grand Bahama is one of the largest shipping ports in the region. We have Grand Bahama Port, as well as we have the Grand Bahama shipyard, where they actually build cruise ships and refurbish cruise ships. So lots of good places for bees to come, and that's the reason why I was saying that we're not sure of the type of bees we have, because bees have been found in these containers, and these containers come from all over the world. So incidentally, Grand Bahama is the place where the bees are very aggressive, seem to be more aggressive than the other islands. So for removals, beekeepers tend to charge about $200 US starting price, and that depends on location, how long they think the job is going to take, if you need scaffolding to go on tall buildings, et cetera, et cetera. So they would do the assessment, and actually we've agreed in the group to start at about 200. And it depends, you know, they'll do assessments on whether the person can afford it, it's an elderly person, there's other ramifications for that. Just to give you a background of Dorian, after Dorian, we had 104 hive boxes lost, 115 in Grand Bahama. And as you can see, the vegetation, the salt water came up to about 30 feet, 20 to 30 feet, and just destroyed thousands of acres of pine forests. This is a beekeeper in Abaco. And in Grand Bahama is one of our beekeepers, Mr. Lamont. He's only able to save these 5 hives here out of the 40 that he had. And he had them because he had them in another location. So a lot of the vegetation was lost after that, and bees lost their homes. So they were pretty much everywhere. After Dorian, we were able to donate through the Rapid Response Action Program through IECA. We were able to donate hive boxes to the young people, as well as we had, you know, some of the lecturers, they raised funds for the beekeepers in Grand Bahama at Apimondia last year. Just recently, the Beekeepers Co-op in Grand Bahama got $20,000 from the government to continue with their process. We do have some challenges in terms of the way bees are perceived in the Bahamas. As I mentioned before, Grand Bahama, the bees tend to be more aggressive than the ones in Nassau and some of the other islands. And also we were able to see more varroa mites Varroa in Grand Bahama than any of the other islands. We haven't really seen them in New Providence or Exuma or some of the islands, but definitely they are in Varroa is in Grand Bahama. So this is something that we need to get a hold of. We actually had about 2 people killed there from bee attacks. Some of our community partners have been the Exuma Foundation, as I mentioned, the Savannah Bee Company. They've been a very good partner of ours in our bioeconomy project last year. I had Mr. Ted Denard from Savannah Bee Company came to be one of our trainers, and he's a wealth of knowledge in terms of marketing bee products. These are some of the bee products they have, even in terms of providing a pump, which I never thought of for honey. He sells this separately to go along with the different varieties of honeys that he gets from all over the world.
Okay, Miss Lightborn, we're into the 25-minute plus zone.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize it was so long. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's
15 minutes per presentation.
And I am done.
Fantastic.
In terms of future projects.
All right, thank you. Any quick questions for Miss Lightborn? Anybody got any quick questions? Miller's Apiary. I'm so looking forward to traveling to the Bahamas. Lots of interesting work with sharing of information. Bookkeeping to beekeeping. Interesting. So somebody's coming your way to see you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, but we got to push ahead because, you know, we've got a tight schedule. I can't push back any more country papers again. For a following day. So the next country on the list is Barbados, Mr. David Small. Before you start, David, I just want to make a quick request to Tobago. Can anybody's got the chief apiarist in Tobago's email address? Can somebody just quickly just stick it in the group online somewhere or WhatsApp it to me? Because I need to get him in the group. Our email address from him is not correct. All right? Okay, so Mr. Small, and it's no reflection of you. Mr. Small is a big dude in the business of beekeeping in Barbados, man. So, Mr. Small, it's all yours. Unmute your mic and go ahead, please, sir.
Hello, everyone.
Good day, good day. We can hear you.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
We can see it, sir. Start your presentation, please.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, as you all know, my name is David Small. I'm beekeeper in Barbados for 2010 was a little lad. I got involved in beekeeping from 1977 until now. Beekeeping in Barbados was introduced in 1658 when the European settlers brought bees over on the ships. And since then, in 2004, we had some problems with the Varroa. In 2012, then we had Mr. Boster. He came to Barbados along with Thomas Moser. And they looked at the pests and diseases, and they found out we had a little Varroa, some deforming virus, but since then, the bees are back up and running. Actually. Enter. Just to enter the history, and the bees I think were brought in for pollination of the cotton called Barbados. Was one of the bigger cotton growers in Barbados and in the world in the early 1600s, late 1700s. Something missing. Lisa Herrera. Mm-hmm. The type of bees we have here are strictly European. Some could be a bit defensive at times, but there's no, let's say, a real sighting of the Arcanized bees in Barbados so far. The number of colonies on the island are estimated between 580 to 600 hives. This came about as a part of some training we had with the Ministry of Agriculture. Florida came down, they sent down Westervelt, Boster. They're members of the Caribbean Bee College Board, along with myself, and we did some training. Montgate Distillery is on board in terms of they allow us to use their conference room as one of our training centers. The average age and sex of the beekeepers in Barbados range from 5 to 65 years old. Both male and female involved in the industry. The production levels vary in terms of where the height and rainfall areas are. They get about 45 pounds on a medium, can be 50 to 55 on a deep. But I found out that for the past couple of years now in Barbados, I think with the climate change, we've been having less honey. What I'm trying to do right now is trying to get the guys involved in like harvesting propolis. Because I found out that the propolis I use it to make tincture. Where you mix it with, but I don't use alcohol, I use Montgate brandy and silver so that I could drink it. But the tincture is used if you have a cut. You can put it on it in terms of like if you use them with mucocum or one of those stuff to help seal the wound from infection. And also we're trying to get into the schools. So whereby I started work along with the ministry, the Adams School for one, Grantley Adams, and there's a young lady from Dayton Griffith who's also involved. The success and the challenge to the development, to growth and development of the industry. Yes, we trained 302 persons in basic beekeeping, ranging from how to proper use, how to properly light a smoker, how to do cutouts, make swan traps using the 5-gallon pail, and identify the equipment. The whole gamut of beekeeping, we went through that in terms of training. 202 males, 100 females, and then we had some about between 7 to 10 kids who were also part of the training, and this was done at NCC. During the last, just after COVID, the lockdown, we trained 45 persons, and we, of living protocol, we used 15 persons a group, and at the end, each of them were given a kit whereby they got bee suits, hive tool, the whole works, and a beekeeping kit. And the ministry now is going to come out and help them catch swarms and put them in the hives. I think so far we have 2 persons that got swarms in their hives. And we have now more persons also involved in bee removals. The BAA, which is Barbados Agricultural Association, is an umbrella, is under the umbrella of the Barbados Agricultural Society. This is BAS. And what we are doing, we set up a price whereby swarms are 300 Barbados, and then according to the work, then you can charge up to $2,500. Depends on the work that has to be done. Yeah, we also train some beekeepers in queen rearing. And I think at present, there are 2 queen breeders on island. But what I would like to do at the NCC is start using the NICOT system. If there's anyone in the group who has done use the NICOT system, I would be very appreciative if I can get some help in that direction. The challenges, pests and diseases, as I mentioned earlier, we had the Varroa invasion in 2003-04. But since then, I think the bees have built either a resilience or resistance or learn how to live with the mite. And to that end, we had some research done by Aristobee Research out of the Netherlands, whereby they came in and they started to check to see what they did is they look at the prevalent brood. And at one stage, there was about, I think we removed 450 from one frame, and we found 2 mites and they were said to be non-reproductive. So, and towards that, I think we're doing a good thing. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, severe drought in the early year affected the availability of food. Hence, we had to done some feeding using sugar. And then they come on towards when we had some torrential rains, whereby then the bees start to eat back out what honey, the honey is definitely bees, what honey they had in the hive. So hence the production level of honey this year was also down. Now one of the is the high cost of the equipment. You have to import our equipment from the US, or if no one, I think no one in the Caribbean has it, but and the cost, and then with the duties, the beekeepers, they're given a concession through the Ministry of Agriculture, whereby if they bring in any equipment, they have the duties waived, but VAT has to be paid. Future projects, what we like to do is empower the youth. Women, like I find out the women now are more vibrant, and plus a lot of them were laid off due to the pandemic. So a lot of them are looking for avenues to help feed themselves and their families. So a lot of them are approaching us in terms of they want to get involved in beekeeping. And in NCC, we're now trying to establish a junior beekeeping club. And what we would like to do is also see whereby as in the opening day, Richard, you talked about the use of apitoxin, how you gather your venom from the bees. My question to you now would be, how are the bees at the end of the day when are they very aggressive because of the agitation, or how do you get your venom from the bees?
Yeah. Yeah, I can answer that question for you. That's quite an easy one. There is some, obviously you're disturbing the bees slightly because you're putting a glass plate which has a light electric impulse going through it to agitate the bees to sting the plate. But this doesn't get them overly aggressive. And we try to work with our less, well, not very least defensive, but mid-range bees, so there isn't too much chaos in the apiary. And actually, from some research I've been looking out of Eastern Europe, which I can share with you, there has been some tests done with regards to varroa mite infestation and using the frequent use of the apitoxin extraction. So obviously the electric shock or the slight shock will dislodge any mites on the bee. So you'll find that you'll get a very good a low rate of mite infestation in the process. So it does help keep down mite populations as well as give you a source of income. But no unusual or untoward behavior by the bees. It's quite an easy process. I'll probably try and post some videos of us doing some extraction in the course of the week, if once the weather holds. All right?
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, any questions for me?
Yeah, oh, you've come to the end of your presentation?
Thank you, because I know we're short, we're pressed for time, so I have a little bit more time, but I will answer some questions.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, we can have some questions from the audience, everybody online. We've got 4 minutes left to go, so anybody wants to make use of it, let's go for it, or we can push on to our next presentation. Nope, no takers. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, next presentation. All righty, our next presentation that we have scheduled is the Dominican Republic. Mr. Rivas, Santiago, you ready for us, sir?
Ready.
Let's go. The floor is yours, man. Tell us all about the Dominican Republic. We're waiting with bated breath.
Okay, I'm trying to share my screen. Is there?
Not yet.
Okay.
There we go. I think that's you. Yep, we got you, Santiago.
Okay.
Well, we're gone. You look. We just lost you. You just lost it.
Okay. Can you see the presentation?
No, we just lost it.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Let's see what happened. Okay. César. No se comparte. ¿Qué pasó? ¿Acá? ¿Tú la tienes abierta? Sí. Okay. No, ¿qué pasa? Ábrela completa la presentación. ¿Eh? And sorry, we are having some difficulties trying to share the presentation, sorry. Has some technical difficulties that we're trying to solve, sorry. Quítala, quítala. Ponla ¿cómo decirte? Minimizada, no la abra. Ok. Así, tú la tienes en... Debería compartirse. Que tú deberías ver, tú vas a share. Richard.
Yes, sir.
Aquí ya te veo acá. Okay.
You were almost there. You were there. You just pressed the wrong button, I think. You were there. You had it on screen.
Yes. We are trying to click the share screen, but it's not activated.
The share screen. It should. Okay. We could push ahead with another presentation, and then you can come back. All right.
Okay.
So.
Sorry.
Who wants to go?
We will be ready for the next time.
Okay. Who's
Okay,
596, 597, 597? Okay. Well, let's push ahead with another presentation then. So let's go with Tobago, please. Let's start off with Mr. Irvin from Tobago. Irvin, are you ready? You can go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Yeah. Okay. Mr. Rivas, can you just? Okay, it's muted now. Okay, good. All right, Irvin, go ahead, please, and speak up. We can hardly hear you.
Right, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Right. My name is Mr. Chert Irvin, Apicultural Officer attached to the Division of Food Production, Forestry and Fisheries. I'm here to bring to you a country report on Tobago. As you all may know, Tobago is a smaller twin island republic of Trinidad and Tobago, located northeast of Trinidad, southeast of Grenada, with an average population of 60,874, according to consensus done in 2011, with a land area of 300 kilometers square. Climate, tropical. Here's a map showing the disbursement of bees throughout Tobago. Majority of our beekeepers in Tobago and the western side of Tobago. Types of honeybees reared in Tobago. Oh. Right. Apis mellifera, better known as European honeybees, are mainly reared in Tobago for honey. There are several other species of stingless bees, bumblebee, the black trigona, and the Melipona flavosa. I'll give you a brief history of beekeeping on the island of Tobago. Based on reports, the said named species, Apis mellifera, was reared in the year 1918 and has been on an ongoing basis beginning in 1950 till now. In Tobago, we had the first Caribbean Beekeeping Congress, which we are back here in 2020, held by Tass and Mr. Solomon. Tobago Apiculture Society is the only society in Tobago at present, which began in 1992. All right, here's a demographic breakdown of beekeeping on the island of Tobago. Due to a recent survey conducted, there are 52 active beekeepers, utilizing 85 sites, and rearing 1,035 colonies. Right, here's a breakdown from 2017 till to date. 2017, we had 568 colonies. 2018, we had 1,025 colonies. 2019, 958 colonies. And 2020, 1,035 colonies at present. Comparison between male and female in the beekeeping sector, like active beekeepers, there are 45 male and 7 females. Is a comparison of beekeepers rearing below 10 colony and above 10 colony. 20% of our beekeepers are rearing below 10 colonies, 80% above 10 colonies. Our principal product in Tobago here is honey, and here's a breakdown of the price range. A 70 ml bottle could vary from $160 to $200. Beeswax from $50 to $80 per pound. Pollen, $20 to $35 per ounce. We also do creams, soaps, beeswax candle, and a wide range of honey beers and a wide range of other products, which more females and housewives are getting involved in. All right? Here's a picture of a school tour, and likewise a visit from a foreign female beekeeper. We also have the Akimonde, which is held by Mr. Gladstone Solomon, a kind of AP tourism venture. All right. Here's a wide range of value-added products again. There's a wax rolling, which was done by the Tobago Apiculture Society. Skincare products on my top left-hand corner, and also lovely honey-made delights like honey popcorn, honey cakes, honey jam, honey wine on the top right and bottom right. Threats faced by beekeeping in Tobago. rapid physical development, indiscriminate use of pesticide, deforestation, possible importation of honey. Challenges faced continue: predatory larceny, land tenure, climate change, availability of land, credit to access, access roads. Pests and diseases found in Tobago. Wax moth, as we all may know, is a managerial problem in April. Army ants, which destroyed most of our colony in Tobago. There's a war between ants and the bees for food. Varroa mite, which was discovered in the year 2000 in Tobago. Also, we had the tracheal mite, which was discovered in the year 2016. Level of government support. The government have a very strong supportive system for beekeeping by the incentive and subsidy program. We also offer extension services throughout the island of Tobago and conduct workshop and training courses throughout the island. Future projections. Queen rearing program, which will aid in building our numbers of colonies throughout the island and getting good breeding stock. Establishment of a government apiary in the western side. Currently we have 2, but they are in the eastern side of Tobago. Honey analysis, which will give us a breakdown of our composition of honey, so we know what we are selling and we can market it accordingly. Courses on stainless bees and European honeybees. More young people are targeting the stainless bees because most people fear bee sting, but the honey is very, very, very valuable, fetch a high price throughout the region. So I can safely conclude that during the period of 2017 to 2020, there has been an increase in colony by 467. In Tobago, we continue to strive in the beekeeping industry despite the many challenges faced throughout the island. Thank you all very much for your undivided attention. Hope my presentation was very fruitful. Any questions? It's a pleasure being here in 2020 once again, virtual.
Great stuff, Irvin, man. Great stuff, great stuff. And I love the time, man. 7 minutes and 55 seconds. We needed more people like you yesterday. Because like we had 4 presentations yesterday and it took us 3 hours. So, man, you got, Chet, we need more of you, man. More of you, man. More of you, man. More of you. Bring more of you, man. All right, because that's, I mean, I can stop and talk and go and get a cup of coffee and come back and we still got time left, but great stuff, man. Anybody got some questions to Mr. Irvin? No one is trying to work out how Tobago has nice, gentle bees and Trinidad has these firebrand bees, and none of them have crossed the path, man. I think you got like a shield, you know, between yourselves and Trinidad.
We have more, due to our geographic location, Trinidad is more closer to Venezuela, and we are more closer to Guyana. You know, that's one of the major factors. Although we have traffic between Trinidad and Tobago every day, I don't know, it's a God-sent blessing that we don't have Africanized bee here yet. I'm not praying for it to come. Yes. I go to bees with my bees with a little veil, a jeans pants and a long sleeve shirt.
Beautiful,
my
beautiful.
comrade in the next time, Mr. Sananan, had need to put a 3 and 4 bee suit.
Well, you know, let's see. Let's hope that that holds. Let's hope that holds. I see there's a question in the room. Lenny Rodney, if there's a threat of predatory larceny, why would you want to breed stingless bees?
Well, the threat of predatory larceny, I will say, is about 5% in Tobago at this present time, but people are tending to rear the stingless bees due to the no sting. People have fear of being stung. So like younger people will try because they read it and recognize that the value of the stainless bees honey is very high.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Well, I mean, you know, what can I say? People will always be people, huh?
Correct.
Just have to look for that. Santiago, have you been able to resolve your issues? Santiago, have you been able to get your presentation sorted out?
Yes, thank you.
Yes? Okay, so we're going to flick back to the Dominican Republic, and then from there, we have the illustrious pleasure of having our Chief Veterinary Officer for St. Lucia in the house, so she's going to make the presentation for St. Lucia. She's pressed for time, so we're going to cut across momentarily after Dominican Republic.
All right, thank you all very much. Enjoy.
Thank you, Irvin. Pleasure, man. Next time in Tobago, I have to look you up, man. I'll do one better. I'll come just in my short pants and nothing else, and we'll go in the biz. All right, let's go. Santiago, it's all yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry for the technical inconveniences, and greetings from Dominican Republic.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so Dominican Republic is located at the center of the Caribbean Sea. We have as limits, we have in the north, the Atlantic Ocean, in the south, the Caribbean Sea, in the east, La Mona Channel, and in the west, we have the pleasure to share the island with Haiti. About backgrounds, honeybees were introduced in our island in 1536 by Dominic Monks. The race introduced was the black German or black European honeybees. Then it was introduced Italian race, Apis mellifera ligustica. So now we have a hybrid between these two races. Modern beekeeping, we have modern beekeeping with Langstrom beehives, as you can see in the picture from the 1900s. And about sanitary conditions, we have a presence of nocemosis, European parbrood, stonebrood and charlbrood, and varrosis. And there you can see the years where these diseases were registered. And we have absence of American parbrood, small beetle hive, and tracheomite. So we are, because I have the pleasure also to be a beekeeper, we are, according to our last agricultural census, we are 3,454 beekeepers, representing around 100,000 beehives. Our main production is honey, around 2,500 tons per year, and wax. We are organized in 37 beekeepers organizations and distributed in the whole islands, in all the regions, and you can see in the presentation, including two cooperatives, one in the Northwest and the other one in the North Central region. About value-added high products, we have honey itself, our main bee product, with a huge variety of presentations that you can see in the pictures. And also related to honey, we have honeycomb, honey sticks, crystallized honey, gray-weighted honey, meat, honey beer, and honey soap. And regarding other bee products, propolis, pollen, royal jelly, health and cosmetic products, beeswax lipsticks, and wax foundation. Regarding the wax foundation, we have, as you can see in the picture, we have two industrial wax foundation machines. One of them is related to a beekeeper organization in the East Regional, and the other one belongs to a beekeeping supplies supplier, also a very big beekeeper in the South. Okay, about success to growth development, we have institutional integration. We have been promoted several pacts and initiatives about institutional integration. One of them is the establishment of the Dominican Beekeeping Network with the support of Argentina International Corporation. This network is a joint effort of private and public institutions related to national and international beekeeping. This network interacts with beekeepers organization and the National Beekeeping Commission, identifying necessities and solving them through projects. This relationship with the National Beekeeping Program of Argentina for around 20 years was awarded with a successful case of family farming through an award sponsored by AICA and the Inter-American Development Bank in Washington, D.C. as a Contagro project. And this set the stages of the establishment of another network, Latin American and Caribbean Beekeeping Development Network, RELAC, with the participation of other countries as Costa Rica, Uruguay, and Haiti. Continuing with institutional integration, it was established the Dominican Beekeeping Cluster with participation of representatives of all the value chain, the beekeeping value chain in the country. Also, it was established the first beekeepers cooperative in the country in the Northwest region, which is our main honey production area in the country. Also, our first experience of honey exportation directly by beekeepers. You can see in the pictures their honey processing facility recently expanded with a fund with the European Fund, managed through the Dominican Beekeeping Network. Also, we have been promoting beekeeping in agricultural technical schools and universities. And through a participatory process, it was developed a strategic plan for Dominican beekeeping sector. Dominican Beekeeping 2030, it's a 15 years strategic plan called Inclusive Development with Environmental Care. So about research, our main projects are related to varroa mite integrated management, considering validation of chemical, organic alternatives to control these external parasitides, and also cultural management strategy, and also training for the beekeepers. Also, a small hive beetle epidemic vigilance. We have the small hive beetle presence in surrounding countries, so we established a strategy including sentinel apiaries, and also training for our beekeepers on all these local institutions related to the vigilance. Bee flora studies also, bee genetic improvement program, considering identify and selecting queens, considering hygienic behavior, defensive behavior, and prolificity, and also innovation related to the beekeeping strategies against climate change challenges. Okay, about training and technical assistance, we have established demonstrative apiaries for technological validation and training, providing training to update our beekeeping technicians and beekeepers. Also, we have a national beekeeping meeting, considering priorities in the sector that when prioritized with all the whole beekeeping sector. Also, considering the pandemic situation that is affecting all our countries, some colleagues for the beekeeping division are coordinating weekly virtual beekeeping workshops. As you can see in the picture, as every Wednesday in the night, we have this kind of workshops with local and international experts. You will have a pleasure to have experts from the Caribbean. Don't worry about the language, and it will be a good opportunity to practice Spanish also. About market linkage, our main achievement has been the access to European market, product development, the support to beekeeping entrepreneurship, participation in national and regional fairs, apitourism. We have two attractions, one in our main touristic region, Punta Cana. Probably some of you have heard about it. And we have the other apitourism attraction is in the border province of Dajabon, when we have there the support of the Ministry of Tourism, and also our annual National Honey Contest that has been celebrating for 14 years. Sorry. And finally, quality integrated promotion. We have been working in the update of our national honey normative. Also, we have established a beekeeper register and traceability system, including detailed information about beekeepers, apiaries, with specific information, satellite information on their location. Also, HACCP and good honey manufacturing workshops has been provided for traders, beekeepers, exporters. You can see here pictures of beekeeping facilities that have been receiving this kind of workshop. Also the promotion of certified honey extraction and manufacturing facilities. We have pictures here of 3 of them related to beekeeping organizations in the country. So finally, challenges. Considered by consensus in the sector, we have climate change, deforestation, high pesticide use, limited application practices, weakness in our beekeeper adaptation, outdated beekeeping legislation, bee product marketing, as I said, a small beetle hive in surrounding countries, and about future projects, the update of our beekeeping law to continue institutional strengthening as at the level of beekeeper organization, the cluster, the beekeeping sector itself, and Latin American and Caribbean integration, to promote a network to provide technical assistance, including the more demonstrative apiaries, and also beekeeping farmer field schools, methodology promoted by FAO, based in learning by doing. Also, to strengthen our active sanitary strategy and sentinel apiaries, to establish a beekeeping associate degree with the support of RELAC, to considering their experience in Argentina, to establish a certified bee livestock production program for Dominican beekeepers, and to take advantage of the possibilities to export bee livestock in the region, to establish a quality management body that will be responsible of a quality seal as a guarantee for pure honey, to a strategy for bee-friendly plants conservation and planting, a very important project for us, honey and propolis characterization, and finally, a marketing strategy for local and international markets for our Dominican bee products. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Santiago. Great presentation. Looks like great things are happening in the Dominican Republic. I have a good friend from the Dominican Republic. He always invited me to come up, but I've never had the chance. His name is Ramon Charles.
It will be a pleasure to have you all there.
Yes, one of these days I will come and visit. Any questions from the audience? I see there's one question, okay, from Reshma. Is there an established gap, good agricultural practices in apiculture in Dominica? So is there a good gap analysis there?
Excuse me, a gap?
Good agriculture practices.
Yes. We have even a manual that there was a regional effort, and there is a manual for good agricultural practice for beekeeping. It's a regional manual made by the support of OIRSA, the International Organization of Health, that some Latin American countries are related to it, to this international organism. So that's the manual that we are using for good agricultural practice. Also, we are developing a technological path considering the challenges of climate change.
Okay.
But we are also changing the management recommendation considering the challenges that we keep in us face with climate change.
Okay, Nicole Bradbear says, very nice to see you, Santiago. Thank you for your great talk and update. So, greetings from the UK.
It was a pleasure to see you also, Nicole.
All right. Any more questions, folks? Any more questions? Keep them coming. Santiago's got a whole 2 minutes left to burn, man. You know, so I just don't know what happened yesterday, man. What happened? What happened yesterday, guys? Because everybody's going through their presentations real quick, but yesterday was like, we had essays. We had essays, man.
Question for Santiago.
Because I had to change my computer.
Okay, David Small has a question for you, Santiago. David Small.
The other one didn't want to present in English. I don't know what happened.
Hi, Santiago. I'm sorry I missed you when you were in Barbados. Hopefully I get to meet you again.
Excuse me, I cannot.
Yeah, I said I did not meet you when you were in Barbados. Hopefully someday I get to visit your country to see your experiences and your beekeeping on it. You want it? I said I did not get to see you when you were visiting Barbados, doing the survey. When you did the survey in Barbados, the baseline survey, I did not get to see you.
Okay.
But hopefully someday I get to see you in your country and your beekeeping practices, so that I will bring back some of your practices to Barbados and teach my people. Because you seem to have a very interesting program there in the Dominican Republic.
Okay, it was a pleasure for us to be in your beautiful island.
Okay, there's a question from Bo Stuck. Great presentation, old friend. Info on queen rearing operation and races of bees in DR.
About the queen breeding?
Yes, from Bo Stuck.
Okay. So about queen breeding, we have a bee genetic improvement program, and based in the selection of considering three priorities considered by the consensus of the sector is hygienic behavior, defensive behavior, and also proliferation. And now we are added the consideration of the management of our bee stock with varroa mite. And these queens selected, we are providing to our queen bee breeders, so in order that they do the massive production for our beekeepers. That's the idea. But taking into consideration that the characteristics of our bee livestock, and we have been receiving some offers to export our bees to surrounding countries. So that's why we are thinking in our local beekeepers, and us, and also for possibilities of exportation.
Okay, one last question, and then we'll move to our next presentation because we've now gone over our 15 minutes. Who qualifies for the internships?
Qualified entrepreneurships?
For internships, I think you said in your...
Okay, internships.
Yes.
Okay, well, about internships, one of our challenges when we started to provide support to the beekeeping sector was that we don't have human resources qualified or specialized in beekeeping. So we started to exchange, to promote beekeeping in university, technical schools, and also to provide some the possibility to all the institutions related to the Dominican Beekeeping Network. So to try to encourage and to include human resources related to agronomy, to veterinary, and lucky for us, some of them, like most of our team, we already were beekeepers. So and we, with the relationship at that moment, at the beginning with the Argentina International Beekeeping Program, we started to coordinate internship I have the pleasure to be one of them, and then we have other colleagues related to our national institution of research, BIAP, and then for the national livestock direction, we have another internship in organic corn organic production in Mexico. So this is the conditions to have a passion for beekeeping, to be willing to have the passion for beekeeping, and to be a agriculture professional. What was the consideration that we have taken?
All right, thank you very much, Santiago. We are still doing good for time, even though we went over a little bit, but we're just taking back what we had already saved, so we're good. All right,
Thank
so
you for the opportunity. It was a pleasure.
okay, so we're now going to move on to the Helen of the West, the sister, your host island of St. Lucia. Dr. Melville Edwin is going to do the presentation, our Chief Veterinarian Officer. So she's going to make the presentation now. Technical team, can we have the boards up? Presentation up, please. Load it out. Thank you much. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Melville, it's all yours. Coming up? You going up? Should come up? All right, perfect. Sorry?
I'm good. Right there. Yes.
Good. Okay, go for it. It's all yours.
Change my name already, boy.
Yeah, I see we're officially here, you know.
Good
The
day.
technical team, not me.
Good day, everyone. Thank you for having me, Richard.
My pleasure.
As you just heard, the name is Shameen Melville Edwin, Acting Chief Veterinary Officer with the Veterinary and Livestock Services Division of the Ministry of Agriculture here in St. Lucia. So just to give you let's first see if I can work this thing.
If you want, I can help you.
Oh,
You got it.
which one is it?
Don't play with your toys on me. Looks that way. You
Yeah.
have to tell him next slide and he switches.
Okay, then next slide. So can we go to the next slide, please? Technical glitches. All right, thank you guys. So as we've seen and has been established by most of our other countries, it is common knowledge, we should have become cognizant of that by now, that in most of our islands, apiculture, the apiculture sector industry was introduced to our shores by the Europeans way back then in the 18th century. Closer to home in the 19th century, in St. Lucia, we actually had the opportunity to export some honey and some wax to England. We should also know that in the early history of apiculture in St. Lucia, much of the instruments were locally produced by our farmers, by our beekeepers, smokers, extractors, and so on, were locally produced. And later, and as we began to establish the apiculture sector on the island, the sector was managed by our forestry department. And later on, in 1994, the sector found its home with the Veterinary and Livestock Services Division was managed by the officers of my unit. Next slide, please. In the earlier days of apiculture, in around 1998, we had about 170 beekeepers, and with an average productivity of about 8 gallons per hive, supplying our local markets and more than able to supply local demand. Back then also we had a vibrant export market. We exported quite a bit of honey to Martinique. However, with time, we experienced, we experienced great losses and a reduction in productivity with the introduction of the varroa mite. We experienced losses close to the region of 50% loss in productivity. And of course, there we also lost the ability to export as production decreased. Next slide. Over time, however, as of around 2008, we've seen a vast improvement in the sector, an improvement in also prices as well. Whereas before, a bottle of honey, 750 ml bottle of honey was sold for around $25. An average, now an average bottle of the same size probably be sold at an average of about $50 or even more depending on your buyers. So it fetches a good price on the market presently. In terms of, we have quite a few farmers. You have different branding and a wide range of products. We just saw some creamed honey as well. In terms of the the type of hives used on island, of course, as is common, the Langstroth is the dominant type of hive used, but you'll also find the top bar and the Peruvian hives on the island as well, which were recently introduced. Next slide, please. There was a scientific study conducted not too long ago, the testing to determine the genetic makeup of our bees. This was done at Apinoff Research Center in the French territory. And the results of the study indicated that at least 47% of our bee population are of the European strain, especially subspecies Apis mellifera, and 24% come from the African line. And finally, and the rest of it, of course, would be a mix of these two strains. So these were the results of the study. We will be looking now at the demographic profile of our sector, of our bee producers. Presently, we're conducting a survey to determine, to get a better picture of our apiculture sector, our farmers, productivity, and so on. And from the farmers that we had on our data, we've presently visited at least 62% of those farmers. We're conducting visits. The survey is ongoing. So we're going out and capturing up-to-date data on what is happening in the sector. This is where we're at. Next slide, please. So far, we've determined that this is a breakdown of the ages in terms of our beekeepers. And you will realize that most of our farmers are middle-aged, over 55, so in the older range. Okay? And at least 1% less than 25 years of age. Next slide, please. In terms of gender, of course, you'd realize that the majority of our beekeepers are male, and we have a small percentage of females. But we're happy that the females, the ladies, are participating in the sector. In terms of the apiaries, we realize that most of our beekeepers manage less than three apiaries, and the majority, and can't really see this clearly. You would notice that the majority of the beekeepers presently manage less than 3 apiaries, and these are mostly the newer farmers. Those, because there's been quite a bit of training on island, training by the ministry as well as training by our clusters, training by IAC and some of the other clusters on island. There's quite a bit of training that has been done, and you have a lot of new farmers, young persons becoming interested. And so a lot of the present beekeepers the smaller have less apiaries. The larger apiaries, more than 5 and so on, would usually be managed by our older, more experienced beekeepers. Just a bit of rundown on the production throughout the years. Again, this is just approximate figures. Approximate figures throughout the years. You're looking at from an average of 7 gallons from 2012 up to, we saw a bit of decreasing in the figures over time. And so again, averages again about 4 or 5 gallons per hive over time. Okay? Now in terms of the successes, the challenges, some of the successes we've had in the sector, we've noticed over time improved honey supplies as compared to the past 10 years. We're in the process of trying to begin to establish a national processing facility. There have been a few hiccups with that, but we're in the process. The facility is on the ground, and we're hoping we can commence operation of our national processing facility for honey so that we can establish certain standards, HACCP, and other food safety standards moving forward. We've noticed an increase in apiculture producers, as I mentioned earlier. Again, this is all because of the increased training on the ground. So we've noticed an increase in apiculture producers. So up to now, up to date, we've noticed at least numbers are close in the range of over 200 producers. Okay? We've established through the assistance of agencies like our Bureau of Standards, a standard for honey, and a code of practice for beekeepers. Through Jeff, we've been able to, many of our clusters and other organizations on the ground have been able to get quite a bit of grant funding to carry out a lot of work, to carry out training, and to help young beekeepers start off on their projects. Next slide, please. Some of the challenges that we've recognized, and especially in terms of the natural challenges, are things like climate change. Climate change has affected production quite a bit with prolonged dry spells and heavy rainy seasons will of course affect pollen, affect our plant species, and of course would affect bee honey production and so on. Chalk brood is also a problem, as well as the varroa mite, which has been with us from way back then. Next slide, please. Too fast. Some of the ongoing projects that we've seen, some that have taken place already and are presently ongoing. The cluster, the Ainola cluster, has been doing quite a bit of work in the area of queen rearing. We've also seen certain projects, and you'll see Jeff highlighted quite a bit. Jeff, SGP, UNDP projects funded by these agencies, diversifying the apiculture sector in St. Lucia, processing and harvesting of apitoxin and propolis, and the development of an apiculture tour. Again, these were carried out by the cluster. And you can see some of the products. There are quite a few, but this is just a brief, a small profile of some of the products done locally. So many products done in St. Lucia, everything from, of course, the base product, honey, to candles, to lip balm, to lotions, of course, wax, propolis, and the rest. Another project would be establishment of queen rearing facilities, again, doubling of existing colony stock. Remote hive monitoring is a new project. Different phases of the project will be moving forward, and training in apitoxin and harvesting. Next slide, please. Other projects include, we mentioned apitourism. That would include doing tours and so on. I'm sure the cluster highlighted these activities earlier throughout the Congress. There have been a few studies, lab testing done on our honey to determine more or less characterization of our honey, determine some of the qualities of our honey, as well as pollen analysis. Phase 1, as I mentioned earlier, of the hive monitoring and data analysis. The Api-Caribe project is also a project funded by ICA, collaboration with the Argentine government. There will be, and there has been, that collaboration and exchange of knowledge. Okay? The BCT project is also a project that looks at helping our beekeepers become export ready and working towards increasing production on island with the ultimate objective of exporting honey. So in that project, we're looking at also, we've done lab testing of the honey to determine qualities, helping set up standards for the farmers, for our cooperatives. So this is the way we're looking at as well. Next slide. In terms of future projects, there is the apiculture, the catalyst for sustainable development in small island states. This is a very big project launched by Jeff. You would have heard a bit of it at the beginning of the Congress. Online apiculture training videos have been, this is also some of the plans done by some of our clusters. Next slide, please. The launch of the Hive Keep AR, the beekeeping app. I'm sure you heard a bit of that as well. Phase 2 is also planned in the future for the hive monitoring data analysis project, and the launch of a digital newsletter again by our clusters. Okay? Thank you so much for your time. I just want to highlight as well, in terms of St. Lucia, there are presently restrictions. We do not import any honey products. This is again to safeguard our sector. And just want to make sure I don't miss anything. Yes, I just want to highlight that particular aspect. Thank you very much for your time. Unfortunately, Richard, your computer, battery power just went out. What? Got no battery power.
It's plugged in.
Don't know what happened.
No, I don't know. I'm not sure. All right, guys. Well, I'm unable to get any questions because my computer's just rebooting. But technicians, if you want to fire away any questions, are there any questions? Questions? No. No questions. Okay, that's good. So let's try to move on to the next presentation. the next presentation would be, we've done Tobago, we've done Dominican Republic, Antigua. That would be my good friend, Lorenzo. Is it Lorenzo? Yeah, Lorenzo. I don't know. I'm blind, guys. I don't have a functional computer in front of me yet. Anybody saying they want to go next in the group? Sorry? Or we want to bring on Martinique? Guadeloupe? Okay. Who's going to come up and do the Martinique introduction? Come, Jake, one of you. One of you, man. Come on. One of you. Yeah.
Martinique.
Hello? Martinique?
Oui, Martinique.
Okay, speak.
Alain Loff.
Bonjour Martinique, c'est Congrès la qui a porté concept ici. Nous bienvenue, nous avons écouté présentation et pour ça aller continuer la présentation qu'on nous a écouter.
Ok, pas de problème. Donc alors, il m'a présenté donc voilà. Alors, nous avons présenté le travail que nous avons fait en Martinique, notamment production reine. Alors, depuis 2006, nous démarrons un projet reine Martinique, dont l'objectif là, c'était de produire reine par les apiculteurs. Parce que Martinique, nous tenions un gros problème d'importation reine, importation ici. Et nous voyons que ça n'a pas favoriser le développement pays. Donc, nous cherchons à augmenter la production reine Martinique. Ensuite, nous réfléchissons aussi pour savoir comment nous pouvons travailler les rendements les ruchers. Et puis aussi, travailler aussi auprès des apiculteurs. Donc, un gros travail qui démarre en 2006. Ensuite, 2012, nous vraiment assis travail sélection, c'est-à-dire nous travaillons sur les souches d'abeilles, notamment et puis en société qui travaille appelé Apinov, nous faisons un inventaire de toutes les races abeilles qui sont en Martinique. Et nous voyons effectivement que l'abeille noire là est dominant et nous voyons que faut que nous travaillons en la diminution douceur là et puis problème essaimage là. Alors côté 2017, donc 2012 jusqu'à 2017, nous et à partir de 2017, facteur maintien travail là et mettait en place un réseau d'apiculteurs qui travaille en l'air comment ni les meilleures abeilles possibles en les territoires. Et projet là, nous créons projet apicropique. Donc, c'est un projet qui démarrait côté 2017. Et l'objectif, c'est de tester le travail les apiculteurs qu'a fait dans le réseau. Ensuite, là, nous avons montré comment il y a des jeunes qui rejoignent nous. Donc, il y a un bon jeune qui a rejoint la filière apicole. C'est important parce que je ai appris que la moyenne d'âge des apiculteurs martiniquais, il y a à peu près à la cinquantaine. Donc, plus nous sommes jeunes qui ont participé, mieux ça vaut. Là, c'est toujours travail de sélection. Donc, pour faire travail de sélection, groupe apitropique là, qui a fait formation, qui a fait cellule loyale, qui a fait reine, et nous avons distribué les apiculteurs pour diminuer les qualités génétiques cheptellio. Ensuite, là, nous finissons par les types de manière travail là qu'a développé les sélections. Je vais présenter comment les filières apicoles là qu'a présenté comme Martinique. Alors, l'apiculture en Martinique, c'est plus des ruches qui installées. Nous pas qu'à faire le déplacement de ruches. Les ruches là plutôt sédentaires. Les exploitations, en gros, il y a à peu près à 100 ruches. Les plus gros, ni 700. Donc, la moyenne, c'est à peu près 200, 300 ruches par apiculteur. Ensuite, les organisations qui n'y au niveau apiculture, c'est un syndicat apiculture. Nous avons rencontré les mamailles Sainte-Lucie, les mamailles Dominique. Nous avons un GDS qui a travaillé dans les qualités sanitaires là. Et puis, il y a des collectivités qui ont supporté en l'eau, travail apiculture là, comme le parc naturel, le PAM, la chambre d'agriculture, la CTM. Donc, c'est vrai aussi que nous avons présenté miel nous dans différents salons, à Pimondia, et puis aussi des niveaux de salons en France. Alors, s'agissant des types d'abeilles, donc, comme on dit tout à l'heure, Martinique, nous avons plus espèces majoritaires là, c'est abeilles noires là, nous avons créé abeilles pays, qui est arrivé à climatécoï. Les nombres de colonies, nous avons à peu près 6000 ruches dans le territoire Martinique. Nombre d'apiculteurs, nous avons 80 à 100 apiculteurs en moyenne. Et qui n'y a à peu près en 50 d'années, c'est plutôt des grands nombres, nous avons. Production moyenne est de 23 kilos. Et les autres produits comme pollen, propolis, ça a fait que nous, mais nous n'avons pas de production de gelée. Gelée, nous n'avons pas importé. Donc, mon graphique là, outil que ce que problème et africanisation très fort, et c'est pour nous déclarer programme génétique là pour améliorer douceur et puis productivité. Ensuite, les grands objectifs que nous avons, c'est que nous arrivons développer une filière apicole martiniquaise qui est capable de répondre aux grands enjeux de demain. Donc, alors, développement filière apicole là, qui a passé aussi par un travail de recherche. Alors, les travaux de recherche qui amènent dans les pays nous, c'est caractérisation et identification abeilles locales là. Donc, nous travaillons toujours avec ça. Caractérisation et typicité des pollens locaux, c'est-à-dire que nous avons fait des livres et puis nous avons essayé d'identifier les différents types de pollen et puis aussi d'identifier les différents miels que nous avons, parce que nous avons des miels qui sont relativement monofloraux. Donc, et puis les pollens, nous pouvons valoriser les miels mieux. Nous avons aussi un gros travail que nous avons fait dans les sanitaires là, puisque nous voyons que les traitements pesticides, ça a créé des problèmes de rémanence. Et plus on y en abeille qui a résisté, mieux ça vaut. Ensuite, nous avons travaillé les potentiels nectarifères des espèces. Il y a aussi que nous avons un problème que nous, c'est que il n'y a des zones qui ni trop push. Donc, nous avons essayé de retrouver. Alors voilà, en gros, m'ont présenté les autres filières apicoles Martinique. Donc, je remercie les autres en lot de faire nous participer à dans et congrès là. Merci.
Ok. Nous allons regarder si l'année question pour venir pour où. Mais à côté maintenant, on parle presque question, si vous pas derrière pour dire, nous allons espérer pour l'autre présentation. Après, si l'année question, Richard Kay, essayez et puis je pour question pour répondre à ces gens.
D'accord.
Ok, d'accord.
Okay, any questions? And we will translate them across for you, but interpretation is working well. Okay, that's great. Any questions? No questions? Okay. All right, so tell them thank you. We'll move on to the next presentation.
Merci à pile, puis ça pas de questions. So nous espérons pour l'autre présentation. Merci.
D'accord.
Okay, so Martinique.
Guadeloupe.
Yeah, well, Guadeloupe.
Et puis Guadeloupe pour pas oui pour présenter. Est-ce que Guadeloupe a dit de là? Guadeloupe not there.
All right, he's not there. Okay. All right, well, let's move on with the presentation. Thank you, Jeg. My French ain't so good, so I would not embarrass myself in a global audience like this. But let's push on to the next step. All right, so our next presenter, who is there? Kurt. Okay, technical team, can we play the Suriname video? The 4 meg video on the jump drive. The 40 meg, 400 meg video. While we wait, Kurt Santiago versus about a website and social media. Kurt, we're trying to get you all going. I don't see any other presenters there.
I'm here.
A man with many backgrounds, man. You got a whole media team in back there, man.
Yeah, while you're setting up, I'll just give a brief intro. Richard, is that okay?
Wonderful, sir. Perfect.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, colleagues. As opposed to many of the persons in the conference now, I'm not a beekeeper per se. I work with ICA. I'm the regional coordinator for the Caribbean and also the ICA representative in Suriname, but I am St. Lucian. I'm a national of St. Lucia. And our work basically is to promote sustainable development activities. And honey is one of the strategic crops, honey production and apiculture. That's one of the strategic activities that we have been promoting in the Caribbean. As a matter of fact, many of the references to the Peron hive technology you would see would have started with ICA's work in the islands. And you're going to see a video, and we just chose one of the videos that would kind of show our approach in dealing with apiculture, where we are trying to marry the different strengths of apiculture, which is the rearing of bees as a nature-based solution, the promotion of beekeeping as an economic activity, but also incorporating that as a green solution, which allows for community-based protection of natural resources, and also as a technology which could incorporate all generations in situ in rural communities, which is beneficial when we're looking at the issues of rural to urban migration, etc., etc. So there are many aspects of apiculture which are beneficial to our own development agenda that could make it a very viable and highly valuable strategy for our countries in the region. The Peron hive technology and the concept of permanent apiculture we're promoting has a lot to do also with actually trying to look for more environmentally friendly ways of exploiting bees. So we also have that responsibility not only to extract from the bees, but also seek technologies which are more favorable to the expansion and growth of bee populations in the region. Thank you.
Kurt, I think the team's ready. You ready, gentlemen?
Suriname prijst zich gelukkig met een kustlijn die overwegend begroeid is met weelderige mangroven die behalve bescherming ook gelegenheid biedt om inkomsten te genereren. Helaas hebben opeenvolgende jaren van natuurlijke kusterosie en landschapsverandering voor landbouw en industriële doeleinden, als ook urbanisatie, de grootte van het mangrovengebied doen afnemen. Daarmee zijn onze kustgemeenschappen blootgesteld aan de verwoestingen van de negatieve gevolgen van klimaatverandering, met name de zeespiegelstijging.
One of the main challenges for ICA in the Caribbean region is the fact that the Caribbean region is one of the most vulnerable locations on the surface of the planet to one, the effects of climate change, and also we have very fragile economies in the Caribbean that are highly susceptible to economic shock. For these reasons, the Director General of ICA, Dr. Manuel Otero, has declared the Caribbean region a priority region for his administration, and a lot of attention is being focused, is being placed on the Caribbean to assist in agriculture and rural development.
De afname van de mangrovenvegetatie, die enigszins wordt versterkt door de effecten van klimaatverandering, heeft tegelijkertijd ook invloed op de bijen, die hierdoor afnemen in aantallen. De afname van de bijenpopulatie is ook een gevaar voor de voedselzekerheid vanwege de afname in de productie van voedselgewassen en honing. De vicieuze cirkel die er ontstaat, is dus dat de afname van de mangrovenbossen betekent dat er minder nectar beschikbaar is voor de bijen, hetgeen dan weer een vermindering brengt in het aantal bijen. Minder bijen resulteert in minder bevruchting van mangrovenbloesems, dus minder mangrovenzaden en dus minder natuurlijk herstel van mangrovenbos. Maar ook minder voedselproductie, minder tomaten, boulanger, paprika, papaya en manja en ook minder honing.
De bijdrage van de bij aan de mangroven is dat natuurlijk de bij gaat naar de bloem en we kennen de parwa-honing, eigenlijk de mangrovenhoning om het zo te noemen, want de parwa is eigenlijk een mangrovensoort en de mangrovenbossen die worden voor een heel groot deel bestoven door de bijen, vanuit dus eigenlijk de parwa-honing hebben. Het is zo dat bijen een heel grote bijdrage leveren aan zeker de wereldvoedselproductie en ook aan andere bloemen, vegetatiesoorten. En zeker voor onze mangrovenbossen die heel belangrijk zijn voor eigenlijk de kustbeschermende factoren, leveren de bijen een heel grote bijdrage aan het in stand houden van de bossen.
Inspanningen die gericht zijn op het verminderen van de negatieve effecten van klimaatverandering in het Caribisch gebied zijn grotendeels gericht op fysieke, kunstmatige, beschermende oplossingen en het rehabiliteren van mangroven middels herbeplanting van de getroffen gebieden. Hoewel deze benaderingen in een zekere mate een succes hebben, is er een effectieve integrale aanpak nodig voor een duurzame kustbescherming. De ICA heeft in samenwerking met haar partners UNDP, GCCA+, het ministerie van LVV en onderwijsinstellingen gemeend de eerder genoemde achteruitgang van mangrovenbos op een innovatieve manier aan te pakken door introductie van de permapicultuur.
De overheid is ook bezig met de bevordering van de bijenteelt in Suriname. We proberen dat te doen door mensen te trainen, begeleiden, assisteren en ook met regelgeving. De situatie van de bijenteelt nu is dat we dan 40 imkers hebben. Er zijn meer mensen die opgeleid zijn, maar 40 mensen zijn actief. Gemiddeld, ik kan niet praten over een gemiddeld, sommigen hebben 2. Op het moment dat je 1 bijenvolk hebt, ben je al een imker. Ja, de grootste is iets van tussen de 300 en 500 volken. Maar er zijn ook wat bedreigingen voor de sector. In die zin van de urbanisatie, mensen kappen hout, de bevolking groeit, verdwijning van drachtgebieden En wat we niet moeten verwaarlozen, klimaatverandering speelt ook een rol bij de productie van honing.
UNDP, in its collaboration with ICA, we've decided to ensure that we can provide the beekeepers with new methodologies, new approaches to ensuring that they can continue with the production of honey, and to ensure that that can be done in a resilient way, and to ensure as well that the livelihoods of the beekeepers can be protected, particularly given the changes that are taking place in the mangrove forest, given the fact that the mangrove forest is in fact under threat as a result of sea level rise and as a result of global warming and the changes taking place in the environment in general.
Een nieuwe aanpak waar de permacultuur wordt gekoppeld aan de rehabilitatie van mangrovebossen is het idee dat door verhoogde bestuiving van mangrovebloemen door bijen de productie van mangrovezaden aanzienlijk zal verhogen. Hoe hoger de zaadproductie, hoe groter de kans op succesvolle natuurlijke regeneratie. Dit vormt een aanvulling op de kunstmatige fysieke beschermende oplossing en reduceert de kosten voor het bouwen van infrastructurele werken. In plaats van de traditionele rechthoekige of lijnstrofhive die de bijenteeltsector wereldwijd gebruikt, wordt in dit project de Perona-hive-technologie geïntroduceerd door het ICA. Deze technologie tracht bijen terug te brengen naar de natuurlijke mogelijkheid om hun bijenkorf te ontwikkelen op basis van hun eigen natuurlijke instincten.
De launch of the hive is natuurlijk niet een systeem die we afkeuren. Het is een systeem die eigenlijk al wereldwijd al jarenlang bekend is. Maar het verschil is eigenlijk dat de klimaatsverandering die we hebben, die ook invloed heeft op bijen, zal inderdaad een bij onder natuurlijke omstandigheden die zelf kan bepalen hoe zijn raadstructuur is, zijn leefomstandigheden. Het feit is dat de structuur van de raad ook de temperaturen van de kas in balans houdt, zal hij in principe een betere bijdrage kunnen leveren onder die bijzondere omstandigheden.
Ja, mijn naam is David Richanel en ik vertegenwoordig een paar imkers in Coroni. Bij de longstrofkasten is het namelijk zo zeg van dat je elke dag, elke seconde bezig kan zijn met de bijen. Je ziet hoe ze vliegen, je ziet hoe ze werken. Daar kan je duidelijk merken wat het probleem is. Heb je zo'n kennis en ervaring opgelopen, is het dan beter en belangrijker en dan makkelijker om te werken dan in de Perona-hive-kasten. Want in de Perona-hive-kasten moet je eigenlijk ervaring hebben om gewoon van buiten uit te kunnen zien wat zich binnen afspeelt, zonder dat je in die kasten gaat.
Doordat de Perona-kasten dicht bij de mangrovebossen worden geplaatst, levert deze aanpak een bijkomend voordeel op. De negatieve spiraal van achteruitgang van mangroven en minder bijen wordt verbroken en alle negatieve effecten worden teruggedraaid met als resultaat hogere productie van mangrovezaden, parwa-honing en andere bijenproducten. De duurzame voordelen die dit oplevert voor kustbewoners zijn daarom ook meer inkomsten en betere regeneratie van mangroven. Dit zal gunstig zijn voor de mangrovebossen, waarmee ook door mensen opgezette woongemeenschappen beter beschermd zullen worden tegen klimaatverandering.
De vooruitzichten van honing van bijenteelt in Suriname zitten goed. Onze honing is een heel goede honing. Wij proberen natuurlijk zoveel mogelijk voorlichting te geven. We proberen zoveel mogelijk ook te kijken wat onze honing, behalve een lekker zoet middeltje, maar ook voor de gezondheidssector. Daar zijn we al een geruime tijd mee bezig. Om ook onze honing te brengen aan de man als het gaat om wondbehandelingen, als het gaat om andere cosmetische zaken zoals gezichtsbehandeling, haarverzorging, noem maar op. Omdat de honing daar zich heel erg sterk voor maakt. En verder denk ik dat als we eerder gaan bundelen, want dat is de kracht van eigenlijk elke sector, is bundelen, samenwerken, elkaar proberen te begrijpen en inderdaad één vuist maken om eigenlijk in het licht te komen van de wereld die weet dat Surinaamse honing eigenlijk wel goed is. Mensen gaan het niet voor ons doen, wij moeten het zelf doen.
you very much, Fabian and Kurt, all the way from Suriname. Any more comments, gentlemen? Kurt, you want to close with any more comments? Okay, I guess you can't hear you, Kurt.
We are trying to bring together, and the various benefits that in all the islands that sometimes we do not normally, we only view it from the aspect that we are producing honey. But actually, the beekeeper is producing so many more services to the environment, and you must begin to promote others. But the environmental services, particularly when we are lobbying government for support. So the role of the beekeeper is essential in agricultural development. And in the case of many farmers, many beekeepers are actually providing free services to farmers in the vicinity with their crops, fertilizing the crops without any returns on that investment. So there are lots of benefits to beekeepers, and when we discuss agricultural development, we need to also look at incorporating beekeepers as strategic components of any agricultural development plan. Normally, you don't see these kinds of connections being made, and this is how we must begin to look at the development of the agricultural sector, where these synergies are linked together, and everyone is recognized for the real and true benefits they are bringing to agricultural development. So that's it for me, and if there are no questions, thank you. And very good Congress. We're looking forward to continue to support Richard, as you know, in promoting and continuing beekeeping. We just signed a contract here with FAO, where we're going to go specifically and continue targeting youth with the Peron Hive, incorporating more youth and bringing more youth into the industry. Because as you see, most of the people are more of in the older age group. So we deliberately going to incorporate youth by bringing them into the sector, helping them with that initial investment that they need to start off 1, 2, 3 hives, and they could take it from there. And I'd like to also see more of the countries do that. Don't ask youth to come in when youth doesn't have any, they just left school, they don't have any income base. No, provide them with that initial assistance, and on the basis of that, with the support, allow them to grow and expand. Thank you, and thank you, colleagues.
Just looking through the feed, I just seen a couple of comments. Okay, play the video full screen. We will make the video available on the website, on the AGBO website, and so you can grab that later on. And you can also watch it on our YouTube channel right now, and we're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook, so you can always just rewind back. But we will have all the presentations and all the videos online on the ACBO online website. Nicola Bradbeer says, very nice to see you using the Peron hives. Well done indeed. So that's great, from all the way from the UK. Peter Mitchell, the discussion today showed me the integration between traditional beekeeping science. Bravo. Yep, that's one of the key things that we need to do. A lot of our beekeepers in the Caribbean are stuck in the old craft, and they haven't been able to embrace the science as of yet. So one of the things I see that is coming through, that we are finding that marriage between scientific research, collecting data, compiling data, and then marrying that with the craft, marrying the craft and the science. Because apiculture is really 50% craft and 50% science. And I think what has been practiced, why we haven't been able to reach our peak in the Caribbean, especially I can speak for St. Lucia, we haven't been able to reach our peak in St. Lucia because it's been all craft and no science. So now that we're now bringing the two together, I think we'll be able to make a concerted effort in really growing the industry. Any more comments from anybody? Nope. Okay, so we've got 4 presentations left. Guadeloupe, French Guiana. I think Dr. Poirot will do French Guiana tomorrow with his presentation. I'm not sure if he wants to do it today. I don't see him logged in. Guadeloupe, were you able to get Guadeloupe sorted out? Were you able to get Guadeloupe sorted out, Ron? Marlon, sorry, Marlon. Mr. Bueno, Mr. Bueno, Benoit. Benoit Foucan? He hasn't come back to us yet. Okay, well, there's always tomorrow. So it looks like, and I have to do St. Kitts. The lady from St. Kitts is not available, so she asked me to do her presentation for her. So Antigua, I do not see Antigua around either. Mr. Brent, I don't see Brent around either. I don't see Brent around either. All right, so I guess that looks like that's it. So, I mean, I can do St. Kitts and we can call it a day. Okay, give me 2 minutes. Wait, we want to run a video while I get the St. Kitts, run the Vita B while I get St. Kitts hooked up. Killer Mike, please. Okay, guys, welcome back. I'm back again. We're going to go and do this. I'm going to quickly run through the St. Kitts and Nevis presentation for them. So, technical team, when you're ready, let me know. Okay, 10th Caribbean Beekeeping Congress, St. Kitts and Nevis country paper. Is this working? All right, and I'm presenting on behalf of Dr. Gushard Pine, OBE. I've never spoken on behalf of OBE before, so I guess this is the first time honor for me. All right, I haven't really read the presentation, but too in-depth. But St. Kitts and Nevis has a rich history in beekeeping. Eva Crane Trust, 1995, sponsored some research and cited records dating back to when St. Kitts was a French colony. In 1964, Pinoche referred the introduction of honeybees to St. Christopher in 1688 and found archives in the National Archives located in Paris, France. So it would have seemed that somewhere between 1688 and 1720, the formal practice of beekeeping may have died out. There were also records referring to wild colonies in both St. Kitts and her sister island of Nevis, believing that had swarmed to Nevis from St. Kitts in the Alexander Hamilton Museums on Nevis. The record further showed that honeybee queens were introduced to St. Kitts and Nevis in the 1990s from Italy. So I guess they got the Apis linguista line somewhere in that time. So published audit, Solomon 1994, number of beekeepers equal 2, with 154 colonies, which equals 77 per beekeeper. Okay, that's odd maths, but never mind. Doesn't quite add up. Caribbean is an area of great concern because diseases have a potential to threaten the economic and environmental viability of the sector with knock-on effects for crop population and natural environment. In this report, Solomon finds that Anguilla, British Virgin Islands, and St. Kitts were free of brood diseases and varroa mites. At best, it may be said that there have been no reported case of diseases or mites in these countries/islands. Demographic profile of the sector in 2020. President Mr. George Rogers, tremendous energy and tireless commitment to the area. Yes, I've met Mr. Rogers. He's a great guy. I think I had the privilege of going to St. Kitts on ICA's behalf, and I met with some of the folks there. Last December was a new management was elected. Corp Secretary is a female. Fantastic. Some of our best international beekeepers are women, and some of our best regional, our most prized, awarded beekeeper in the region of the Caribbean is our own Dr. Jessamy. So, and that's a number one. That should tell the women something, that even though you are few in number in Caribbean beekeepers, you have risen to the cream of the crop. Majority of the communication occurs via a chat that includes 24 persons, also have monthly meetings at the Department of Agriculture base and via Zoom during lockdown. 5 of these are female, approximately half of the crop are aged between 35 to 50, approximately 25% are aged under 35, and 25% are age 50. Statistics. Types of bees, Europeanized. Number of colonies, approximately 200. Number of beekeepers by sex, age, principally made up of farm workers, agriculturalists, backyard beekeepers, and newcomers. Production levels of various hives, difficult to answer. Value-added hive products, beeswax, propolis, as well as honey. Okay, UNESCO, I think these are ongoing projects that have happened this year. I read about this. UNESCO Man and Biosphere Program, Otis Jeffers, Be the Buzz on the Reserve Project. I think that's an activity I had this year. UNESCO's Man and Biosphere Program, some nice pictures, and I guess they had an exhibition. UNESCO Man Biosphere Program, together with 4 other young people in the Latin America and Caribbean. Otis has been selected to implement his own youth project with Be the Buzz of the Reserve. Otis will promote pollinators for crop pollination and various products of honeybees. This activity will teach young people in a practical manner how to produce honey, wax, and other byproducts by creating a demonstration unit. It will contribute to the green economy by giving young people the opportunity to be entrepreneurs in beekeeping and will provide employment opportunities. This project is funded by the Flemish government of Belgium, aims to improve the social economic development of young people living in the biosphere reserves in Latin America and Caribbean region, and there's links on this page to further information. So success and challenges to growth in development. The Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis has taken steps to revive its beekeeping industry. The Ministry of Agriculture has joined forces with the Embassy of Argentina, which is based in Barbados, and the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture for a beekeeping investigative mission. And Registrar of Cooperatives and Department of Agriculture, Clyde Thompson, said that many persons are unaware that a fully functional beekeepers cooperative produced local honey years ago. And I think this is, he said, a significant decrease in the production of local honey prompted the need to revive the once profitable industry. The local people don't trust the imported honey because they know that local honey is of good quality, he said. And finally, there is some links to, I think, the Argentinian project with St. Kitts and Nevis via ICA. Okay, and here are some pictures. Stennett, the Honeyman, Harvey, 2012. Bees for Development, picture of a bees in St. Kitts, and I can't read that one there, but I believe that's probably some mentoring activity there happening in St. Kitts. Future projects. St. Kitts Eco Park. For decades, the Caribbean has counted on pristine beaches and Guyana on its lush rainforest to draw millions of visitors. Now the region's countries are increasingly looking to broaden the draw with bee tourism, also known as apitourism. At a time, the populations of more than 700 North American bee varieties are in decline, according to the Center of Biological Diversity. Okay, so I guess this looks like a beautiful picture. All right, Nature's Honey Harvest. So I think, I'm not sure what this is about. And I think that's the end of the presentation. Any questions? So that's St. Kitts. Antigua, we've lost them. Not seeing anybody from Antigua here today. So I think at this juncture, we can call it a day. We actually finished 6 minutes ahead of schedule. We planned to finish at 4:30 today, and it's now 4:24. So I would just like to thank everybody for their participation and guidance and support. We start tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock sharp. Our keynote presenter will be Mr. Benjamin Poirot of France, of Apinov, the organization Apinov of France. It's going to be a really good day. We've got the panel discussion as well. And on top of that, we've also got Miss Jennifer Holmes, will be participating from Florida. And then we're going to try and kick in the afternoon. I'm going to try to put in a presentation from Argentina, and then we'll have our AGBO AGM. And I guess the president will circulate more information on that in the course of the night and maybe the early hours of tomorrow morning. So for everybody here in sunny, the Helen of the West, St. Lucia, I bid you all farewell and good night. And thank you very much for your patience and your support. And keeping us company and your contributions during the course of the day. So I'm out of here. Peace. Love you guys. Thank you very much. Good night. All the best.